Hi and welcome to Upsiders Information. I'm a certified medical astrologer going financial, but today I'm going to make a little different video than usual. I'm going to start with an end of the year spiritual message, and I'm going to end with an urgent message if you've been in crypto before, something that is almost too late, but I just found out and you're still on time, but only until New Year's, and I'm going to leave that one for last as it's the single most important piece of information I had given so far, so you can jump ahead if you want. I want to address what happened recently in the markets. Astrologically, I was taking a very unpopular stance when I warned people that we were getting too greedy when things were looking good, and as I mentioned, it was a good idea to lock in profits, because if you didn't, someone else was gonna, and that drives your prices down. And I mentioned that we were approaching a possible local top, which we had a couple of days after the full moon, but I understand the confusion as full moons are usually local bottoms, but this is an example of when many conflicting configurations overlap, so we have mixed signals and the result is uncertain. Someone asked me about a daily breakdown, but at any given day you have this many aspects, including the good, the bad, and the ugly, some strong, some weak, some short-lived, others sustaining for a while. So this is a balancing act, and we tend to mention the more relevant ones to draw conclusions based on an educated guess to estimate results. And this works better mid-range rather than short-term, as the influences often have a lag time to reflect in price action, but sometimes they can play out early. For example, the Saturn and Jupiter square, making an exact aspect on Christmas Day, manifested while in orb, not exact, meaning when it was in the making. From a financial perspective, these pullbacks were very synchronized and uniform across the board. They seem orchestrated by whales flashing out gamblers playing with leverage. That's why it's important to always play with real capital. And also flash out inexperienced investors FOMO in. FOMO stands for fear of missing out. But how do you gain experience if you don't start at some point? So this is a catch-22. And as mentioned, the Fed rate cuts to inject liquidity are a double-edged sword because they reveal the fact that liquidity is needed, so it can backfire, and it did, especially when they announced 2 more cuts coming for 2025. The markets were overextended and a correction was due. Actually, it's healthy to build market structure. I just didn't expect it to be this much, though in crypto is very common. When I did an intro to technical analysis last video, I talked about the SMA, the simple moving average. If you see the SP 500 chart, you can see that even with the SMA trending upwards, we were so far above it that coming back to test it would be a crash. This is more of a reality check reflecting the markets were indeed inflated, which I mentioned time and time again, and bubbles tend to pop, though I think this is more of a preview to what can happen later on in 2025-26. And assets are correlated. You can see here the Bitcoin chart performance correlates to global liquidity, so how much money is in the world. So when I mention that an asset looks good, is always in context of macro markets and not an exception to them. Meaning, if everything goes down, the asset in question will do so too, but relatively less to comparable assets, or will recover quicker. And we see that Bitcoin didn't suffer as much as altcoins. But I think based on the astrology that Saturn is going to consolidate Bitcoin for many months, which would indicate the transition into altcoin season, where money starts rotating out of Bitcoin into alt, as I explained in previous videos. Ethereum was more of a surprise to me, but the new moon conjuncts Ethereum's Pluto and it should help it recover. And XRP is hard to tell as the charts are debatable. I have more than one chart for XRP, but it has a lot more room to grow based on technical analysis and fundamentals. You can think of Bitcoins as a store of value, as a new gold, and XRP as an instrument from transactions like a new dollar. But ultimately, the main purpose of today's message is to ground you, because otherwise you're likely to lose your money like 90% of the people and feel defeated and lose your hope, which is the opposite of why we're in crypto. We have to realize we're in a game played by experts with big pockets and bots doing their bid 24/7. Not to discourage you, since crypto was conceived with us in mind, It wasn't meant to be institutional or governmental, and actually Big Brother tried to kill it, but when they couldn't, they joined, and now they're taking over. But there's still room for us. And moreover, most of all the Bitcoin ever mined belong to the people, and that's why we see institutional investment and government grab. Recently, the US confiscated Satoshi coins. This is why it's important to educate yourself and set realistic expectations. We're not here to be rich, though there's nothing wrong with that, and some of you might, but if you hodl fundamentals like Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, you can set yourself up for the future. And we're here for autonomy and to exercise our right to agency. So we're not chewed up by a system and spit out. Some say the system is broken and needs fixing. Actually, the system works exactly as designed and needs replacing. And Bitcoin was an attempt to do that, but nowadays is debatable. And for more information on how our greed is being weaponized against us, follow Whitney Webb, which is a financial investigative journalist that follows the money. Now, I want to stress the importance of not investing what you cannot afford to lose. For example, recently my mom advised me not to invest in my home but in Bitcoin. My mom, an older lady. So, when you receive an unlikely recommendation like so, that we're near a top. So as I mentioned before, you can't live in a Bitcoin, and there's a lot of talk about real estate too. And I broke it all down in my solar eclipse video if you want to go down that rabbit hole, and you can jump ahead to the financial section too. The point here is to help you make the best decision, not just on ROI, return of investment, but return on life, because shift happens and you have to be well positioned, and these markets make everyone believe in Santa and that the goods will never end. So when they do, because they always do, a cycle repeats themselves, you don't want to be caught with your pants down. Ultimately, the spiritual message is not to make profits the God, because God is within you, and how can you better serve thyself and your mission? Spirit will never prioritize your comfort over your learning, because you're here to learn. So don't delay yourself with mirage. Get educated, stop scrolling down social media, and follow authorities in the financial field. Be mindful always, even when investing, especially when investing, because it's difficult to remain objective when you're invested and the mind plays tricks on you. Now, let's see what this new moon in Capricorn has in store for us. As always, new moons are new beginnings, and for markets can be local tops, but not always. This new moon is at 9 degrees Capricorn, and that's important because it will square the degree of the springtime eclipse, which will activate this lunation. So whatever you start today, it can bear fruit by then. So both the sun and the moon are in Capricorn, and this energy is grounded, is ambitious, is focused and goal-oriented, and likes to work hard and build foundations for long-term success. This new moon is ruled by Saturn and is the planet of discipline and structure, persistence and responsibility. This is the season of the New Year's resolution, where we mind the gap between where we are and where we want to be, and where we can plan towards taking action for our vision or our mission or ambition. Now, themes of leadership and responsibility and legacy are highlighted. Saturn is Kronos, is the lord of time that teaches patience and persistence, and good things come with time and effort, so don't fall for get-rich-quick schemes. This is a new beginning to set long-term goals and get organized, to focus on career and finances, to build healthy habits, prioritizing responsibility, and work towards building legacy through persistence and invest in the future. Now, the warning is not to overkill it by overworking and getting too rigid and perfectionist, jeopardizing emotions. The new moon is conjunct Pallas, the asteroid of strategy and wisdom. Economically, there are a lot of pieces moving both for the short and long term, so they serve bigger agendas, and we need to remain vigilant. The same people that told you that Bitcoin was a Ponzi scheme at best and the currency of criminals at worst, now they made an ETF and they're accumulating. So you need to hear not what they say, but watch what they do and act on reason, not emotion, and create a strategy and follow through. As mentioned, we have a T-square of Saturn with Jupiter and Mercury. where Saturn and Jupiter are a tale of caution versus optimism, Saturn being the bear and Jupiter the bull. The square between expansive Jupiter and restrictive Saturn is in a tug of war between bullish momentum and strong resistance levels, or maybe corrections or changing trends or consolidating markets. The Saturn-Mercury square is challenging news or communications, revealing possible bad news and reality checks. And we have a mystic rectangle with Pluto opposed Mars retrograde, but is in supportive aspect with the nodes of fate, past and future, where Pluto, the explosive nuclear planet of death, rebirth, and transformation, is opposed Mars, the warrior planet of action and war, that is backwards and will go back to Cancer, the sign of the homeland, no less than January 6. So we'll see how this play out. Now, this is an ongoing transit with slow-moving Pluto and Mars back and forth, setting the stage where shift can hit the fan. And yet, there are in supportive aspects with the nodes, so we'll see how this play out. And then this will repeat when Mars turns direct and hits the same aspect for the third time by the spring. The Leo King did a 4-hour presentation of the significance of this configuration, looking for another time in history when we had the exact same aspect, and he went back as far as the year 1800 BC. So we don't have much context for this one, but the flip aspect, the reverse of this one, was mid-1939 at the start of World War II. Now, Venus in Aquarius squares Uranus in Taurus, though is separating. Venus rules money, and Aquarius is both the people and tech, and therefore crypto too. This normally benefits the crypto markets, but is making a challenging square with Uranus, the ruler of all things Aquarius. However, because Uranus is in Taurus, where Venus rules, they have mutual reception because they much rather be in each other places, so this mitigates the challenge. And right before the new moon, wounded planet Chiron turns direct and trines Mercury. Chiron in markets represents corrective actions and accountability. Supported by messenger Mercury, this could be good news, hopefully, or some truth coming out to the surface, setting the record straight. Now let's see Bitcoin. We have the new moon conjunct Bitcoin, Mars, and Sun midpoint. This is favorable. And Saturn sextile the Bitcoin Sun by orb, bringing stability. But the Saturn square with Jupiter limits price action. Venus will hit Bitcoin Venus on the 3rd, this is positive, and by the 31st we have an asteroid Ceres and the moon in the mood of taking profits, hitting the Bitcoin North node, and we see some of that with BlackRock selling already. Pluto aversion Venus, this is Wells manipulation, and on the 3rd, Mars retrograde quincunx Venus, this is unfavorable. Now Venus-Neptune conjunct is over-idealistic, but is a separating aspect. And on the background, we have aspects by orb, Pluto that will hit Bitcoin Mercury by the end of February exact, transforming the narrative of Bitcoin, and we can see that already. And hard aspects with Saturn by orb. Saturn opposes Bitcoin Saturn, imposing limitations that will exact in spring when we have the eclipse season, that is a wild card. And Saturn conjunct Bitcoin Uranus, ruler of crypto, will exact by Valentine's Day, canceling some of the good aspects out. So these harsh aspects over the next few months could indicate a corrective action and or sideways consolidation, where I believe money to start rotating out of Bitcoin and into alts for alt season. The good news is that by January 3rd, we have Bitcoin solar return, meaning Bitcoin's birthday, and the solar return looks good in general for the year ahead, but might manifest later on in the year. And large capital coins like Ethereum, XRP, and Solana seem to be safe bets, and then mid to small cap coins increase the risk-reward ratio. But it's good to have a diversified portfolio depending on your risk tolerance. To recap, some important dates are Venus, the ruler of money, leaving Aquarius, the ruler of crypto, by the 2nd, no longer favoring crypto in general, and entering Pisces, the waters of confusion, where nobody knows what's going on. And by the 2nd as well, Mars retrograde makes an exact opposition with the explosive Pluto that could trigger a crash or even a black swan event, or else that can ripple into the markets, causing a dump. And by the 6th, Mars enters Cancer, where it's at fall, and this is unfavorable in general. And now, the urgent message. This is very important if you've been in crypto before, and it has to do with the way the IRS just changed the rules of the game quietly. Not even my accountant notified me of this. So if you miss out on this update, you can end up paying double taxation retroactively plus penalties. And I mentioned before, there is a depossession plan in sync with Agenda 2030, but not the time to open that kind of worms. Let's focus on what the latest changes are and the action that you need to take before January 5th. And this is to save your assets and your ass. You need to sign a safe harbor document and take a snapshot of the end of year asset allocation per wallet with date for your records, just in case you get audited in the future. And this is to help you transition from the old ways of doing taxes, where you could use any system, HIFO, LIFO, or FIFO, which stands for high in, first out, last in, first out, or first in, first out, usually used as per convenience to reduce capital gains. But the new way only allows FIFO, which is first in, first out, where you're likely to pay more taxes as crypto had increased in value over time. Also, it had changed from a global use of cost basis, what it cost you to get an asset to deduct from the amount you sell as per reporting capital gains, to a new system of wallet per wallet as you would do with stocks, that you don't just buy from Fidelity to transfer to Schwab and back and forth. You just keep on site. Now, people don't want to risk their crypto in exchanges after the Luna and FTX collapse, and I'm one of them, but you can have a hard wallet for long-term holding, an exchange wallet with Coinbase One that is a paid service that you can save on fees and it insures you up to 10 grand, and then a hot wallet for asset allocation that you're not sure what to do. And remember that short-term gains less than a year gets taxed double than long-term gains over a year. Now, I'm following a crypto tax expert who made this easier and free. He explains in detail how this works, and he formatted the documents for you to sign. No need to present this to the IRS until audited, but just in case, he keeps a copy for his records and yours. He also has other services like a free crypto tax course that I recommend to take, and paid services like an insurance tax shield, and then monitoring of your taxes or doing them for you. And I'll link him below, but I have no association with him. I'm just using his service. With that said, I think I have made the greatest contribution to your economics safely. I know you are in holiday mode and you don't want to deal with this, which is probably part of the plan. So play Eye of Tiger if you need to get out of the couch and get this done before it's too late. And if you need a reading, you know where to find me. I will leave my email below. And please don't forget to like. It takes me over a week to make these videos and a second to like them. So please comment, share, and subscribe to help the channel survive. Thank you and Happy New Year. Much love. Namaste.